Good morning, everyone. My name is Alicia Snage. I am the author of this prayer book called Alicia's Daily Devotional Prayers. And I am going over some of the prayers to give a little more of a commentary about it. And today's prayer is about forgiveness. So let's dive into that. Forgiveness is very important in this life. Imagine if we never forgave everyone. Just imagine how miserable we'll be. And truly, it's not the person that we have to forgive that suffers. It's actually us who is dealing with the unforgiveness that suffers. It may feel that it is a person that we have to forgive that suffers, but it really is not. And you might think that it's somewhat satisfying to hold on to a grudge and with white fists, and you're like, this person did this person did that, just recollect everything that they have done improperly in your life, or they failed you. But at the end of the day, you're the one who is chained up to that prison cell. You're the one who's chained up with all those grudges and revisiting that memory, and that person is not affected. They live on, they know that they committed that. They probably see how miserable you are, but they're not the one who's affected by your grudge, your unforgiveness. It's actually the opposite from what we think we are truly doing. So how do we know if we've actually fully forgiven someone? When we see that person, or we revisit that memory, tell the story of what had happened, if it doesn't stir up any negative emotion, any response in you, then you know if you've fully forgiven that person, that event, that moment. But if it does stir in some hurtful emotion in you, then that is something that you need to work through and deal. So I have a few cases in my short life where I know I haven't fully forgiven, because it still stirs up an emotional response whenever I revisit that event. I still get upset about it, but you've fully forgiven the person when you're able to revisit that moment, and you can acknowledge that it was very unpleasant. They shouldn't have done what they have done, but you're not affected emotionally by that moment. Now, I want to make it clear that forgiving someone and making appropriate amends or facing certain circumstances are very different things. Just because you are forgiving someone doesn't mean that they don't have to face the circumstances of their action. You can forgive someone, but if they broke your trust, it doesn't mean that you have to trust them again. Or if someone stole from you, sure, you can forgive them, but they still should return what they stole. It only makes sense. You're mending the relationship, but they still have to face the consequences. Now, if the item or whatever they stole, it cannot be restored, they fled, whatever the case may be, you should let it go and let God take into account all the wrong that has been done to us. That's the beauty of believing in a greater being who is a just God that watches everything like that happens in our lives. Everything will be accounted at the end of the day, so we can have that trust. But in the meantime, Jesus tells us that He knows that our hearts cannot handle such unforgiveness, such burdens in this short life that we have, and we can't handle too much. He tells us to let it go. Let go of all the unforgiveness. Let go of all the grudges that happen to us, that we cultivate in our spirits. Forgive, and then so we have to let it go for our sake. And He tells us not to forgive just once, just twice, 7 times. No. He tells us to forgive 70 times 7 times. And I don't know about you, but I haven't forgiven that much. And this rule applies to repeat offenders. If you in family, we see each other all the time, and there's multiple times that you can fail that person, and it might be for the same offense. You might say, okay, you do this and this and this, and they'll still do that and that and that, and they might say sorry, but they still do it. So at that case, you still have to forgive the same offense that they do. But so yeah, so Jesus tells us you can't just forgive once or twice or seven, but 77 times, 70 times 7 times. And you forgive not just for your sake, for your own heart, but because God said so, and God does what God tells us what is good for us. And also, once you realize how much you yourself fail on a daily basis, it gives you, it becomes easier to offer forgiveness to others, because you yourself are humbled. And expecting, failure from others is expected. Don't go around life thinking that everyone's perfect and that they won't fail you. That's a fantasy. That's not realistic. People are not perfect, and they will fail you in one way or another. If you haven't been failed by another, stick around. You'll find someone who is going to fail you in one way. So save yourself the heartache, learn to forgive freely, and you'll see how liberating it truly is. That's all I have for today's prayer. I would love to hear your inputs about some of these prayers. I would love to hear. Everyone has their own experiences and their own perspective on these prayers. One thing I heard about from my friends and colleagues, that they said that the prayers were written in such a way that they were vague enough where anyone could apply their life story, their perspective, their experiences, but specific enough where there's a topic and it's something that you can unpack. I hope you get a copy of the prayer book to follow along with some of the commentaries. These prayers are dense and packed with wisdom. I promise you will be blessed. You can find it on Amazon. All right, well, I'm gonna close this video. I hope you have a great day, and God bless.